Hello.
Vandana and Marc, welcome. It's lovely to be with you this afternoon. My name is Sallie Berkerey. I am the Managing Director of CW, and I'm delighted to be chatting with Marc and Vandana today. Let's talk a little bit, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, and talk a little bit about your career to date. That would be great. Marc, let's go with you first.
All right, thank you. No, it's great to be here. And we're the last panel of the day here. And thank you for joining us. And we're the only things that's standing between you and the drinks outside. So also, if I were you, I would be listening to Corey over in the other room. But
no.
Thank you guys for staying here. So a little bit about my career trajectory. It's a little circuitous. I did not start off in the marketing realm. I actually was trained as an architect. And over the course of the years, I just went into high tech in San Francisco during the first .com boom.
Wow.
And stayed there for a little bit. And really decided to go through the design route. And then I went into a couple of agencies. I do recommend that anybody who wants to be as a CMO or in that marketing world to really go into the agency world. I learned a lot there for about 4 or 5 years. I was in agency side. And then I started working with the LVMH group as a digital evangelist. So digital evangelism in 2009, digital was really a dirty word in luxury. So I went from there to a number of different houses. I was at Benefit Cosmetics for a number of years, working through their digital replatform, starting their influencer program. Launching Benefit Cosmetics into China, which was one of the first LVMH brands to go into China a number of years ago. It was really fun. It was definitely the wild, wild west, and I learned a lot, and I failed a lot, and that was, again, infinitely curious, and that's kind of the red thread through my career, is that I was just been always interested in what can be done. Yeah. And then from there, I continued on with LVMH, was 5 years with Fresh Cosmetics. And so we did the internationalization of Fresh. So we launched into about 40 markets that Fresh is in today. Did a little bit of a penance and went into men's luxury fashion with John Varvatos, but then I quickly went back to beauty. Joined Elemis as their CMO and Chief Digital Officer for a number of years there. Saw Noella and Oriel, for those of you guys who saw them a little earlier today. Just wonderful women to work with. And then I'm now at Facetheory doing the same thing and just starting at a very different scale. So it's really interesting for me to be on the ground floor of a brand that we're just starting to build a lot of momentum.
Wow, that's some journey from architect to tech to many brands. That's very intriguing. We'll talk about that more shortly. And Vandana?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So my journey is slightly different. I thought I would actually, major in mathematics and become a PhD in math. So beauty was never sort of the first thing that came to mind. However, I, did my undergrad, did math, thought it was okay, yes, great, but I knew I'm not going to be a professor. After business school, so I did a consulting for a few years, and I did business school, and then I became an Estee Lauder baby. So they hired me as part of their rotational program, and it was my first introduction to beauty. When I started there, I was really floored by how many brands, the marketing roles that they had. I got part of, again, many successes, but many failures too. But I think 2 things that stood out for me was, having an Indian heritage, launching the Clinique in India. That was super exciting. Got to sort of take a brand that was very well established in a market that I think, was really growing at the time. It had started to grow when Clinique entered. And then using that success, took Estee Lauder to India. Yeah. So all of this sort of helped me understand that, I was really loving what I'm doing. And it's tough road, but you keep going and you kind of find some really great wins and you keep learning. Over the next few years, I actually joined travel retail because I wanted to understand how Asia was running, how Australia was running, how the US and Europe. So great way to kind of expand that geographical network, take it over to understanding the different consumers. Estee Lauder being a brand that was really partnering with retailers, you were not so tied to the customer. So about 10 years later, I actually ended up saying, okay, now I've learned so many different functions, I've joined so many different brands, and I joined another French company named Pierre Fabre. So you probably know them better with brands like Thomas Levain, Ducray, René Federer, and they were really small. They were a physician-dispensed channel in the US. No e-com, no retail presence, so it was a very cool entrepreneurial role. So I said, okay, let's take it. I could get to do product development, I get to market, I get to kind of launch a website, which I had never done and didn't know the ABC of it, but that was the best part. I learned so many things in this sort of role that I may not have ever been able to do necessarily at my time in Estée. 5 years later, as I continued to expand, COVID finished up. I finally came in and joined L'Occitane, which has a very unique blend of that Estée Lauder large powerhouse, but yet a very entrepreneurial spirit. So sort of came back. I stayed around in beauty for many years after thinking I was going to be a math professor. Yeah. No. So very happy to be here.
We like that. We like that you've stayed in beauty. So both of you have had very, very varied careers, but both of you are here in this role as CMO in very different businesses. This is an awful question that people often ask me. What's your typical day look like? And how has this changed over the past few years? Because you've had experience in different brands, but specifically over the last 5 years, I think the role of the CMO has changed dramatically. Vandan, let's start with you.
Sure. I think, yes. I mean, if something's changed in marketing, we've talked about it all day long. 5-10 years back, I don't think people were talking about content creation the way they were today. I didn't know we would ever become this big an influencer, content creation, marketing being at the forefront of our marketing strategy. Today, I don't think a brand is going to be successful if they're not thinking about adapting and learning. You talk to editors, you talk to make sure that your ad came up in the best magazine because that's what people were looking at. You had a digital presence that was great, but today, I don't think you would survive. So as a CMO, I think that role continues to evolve. And I'm pretty sure that next year and the year after, it's going to change. So one of the biggest things you have to be open to is adaptability, learning yourself, because if you think you know it and you're the CMO and yes, you can do it, you're not going to succeed, whether it's from product development, whether it's from thinking of your annual marketing investment, and also willing to take that risk and try. You are going to fail, but it's okay. You pivot, and you quickly pivot.
Yeah, we've just talked actually backstage about the importance of failure, and I think it's kind of a common thread that we've just actually talked with Corey from ELF about having an event. I forget the title that she came up with. It was something fantastic. But anyway, I think they involve some swear words. We won't talk about that. Marc, over to you.
So a day in the life for me is it's very different. I had worked for some larger brands with LVMH. Now I'm with a much smaller brand, and we're definitely on the uptick. But I'm very hands-on. So the other day I was putting together a lab table. The day before that, I was picking out paint colors for our new retail store that's going to be opening up in the next couple of months, or a couple of weeks rather, over on Regent Street, so you guys should all show up. And then I'm also picking textures for product development. I am looking at finances for the website stuff and looking at Amazon. And really, I think the day in the life of a CMO is what fires do I need to put out today? And how can I keep the energy of the team up? I am a constant cheerleader, and I think that that is kind of my superpower in terms of setting a vision and making sure that I show up every day as my authentic self and really making the team feel comfortable in what they're doing. I am constantly learning from the team. My team's sitting here in the front. Hi, guys. But I learn every single day because I'm on the older side, and so this creator economy is relatively new. I've never created a TikTok myself. And so I'm learning from the teams in terms of the importance of it. Obviously, I know the importance of it. I've been doing this for a long time. But the way that the content is created is something that continues to evolve and to change. And as a CMO, because the role, as Vandal had said, like it changes every single day. If you're not evolving, if you're not learning, then you can't be a service to the organization. Every so often, there are these calls that the role of the CMO is dead. Like that was the article, I think, in Forbes maybe a couple of weeks ago. And it's like the rise of the chief brand officer. Well, I was a CBO, I was a CDO, I am a CMO. They're kind of the same thing. I'm a generalist at my core, and I'm just infinitely curious. And so I just always want to show up and be authentic and push a story. So I'm kind of at my real core is I'm chief storyteller. And I think that's kind of what I like to bring to the brand and to really help the teams be the best that they can and continue to teach and to learn.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So we're here today, obviously, at the CreatorIQ Connect Europe. So it would be absolutely remiss of me not to talk about influencer programs. So your businesses are very, very different in proposition. L'Occitane has a long heritage, and Facetheory is relatively new. I think about 7 years since launch, and just about to go into new phase 2 with the store opening in a few weeks. I think we would love to hear about how you and your teams have used EMV day to day and how you use it to plan your marketing. Obviously, L'Occitane has seen a huge step change in the way that it works with influencers over the last couple of years. I think something like a 900% increase or something over a 2-year period, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. So, Vandan, maybe it would be really interesting to hear about how you've evolved that specific function and, how you've worked with EMV, with your team.
Sure, my favorite topic. 900% growth. We were named the fastest growing brand with CreatorIQs from an EMV standpoint. And it came out of the fact that we were everybody was starting to do this. L'Occitane is a heritage brand. Like if I ask anyone and said, hey, you name 10 beauty brands, some of you might name it, some of you might say, okay, oh yeah, I know L'Occitane. My mom tried the hand cream. But you all know the brand, you've heard of the brand in some way, but it was never top of mind. And it's much more top of mind in the UK, even compared to the US and Canada. So when we started thinking, how do we get that brand awareness out? Because a reminder, really, not awareness so much. We said people need to remember us more for all the different kind of products we have. We've got to think about content creation where people are authentic. They love the brand, whether it's our face care, whether it's our body care, whether it's our hand care or our hair care or our fragrance. People used to think about gifting. We have everything in our portfolio that different people love for different reasons, but we weren't talking about it. So the idea was we were nowhere on the roadmap. I remember Allie, when we first asked her, hey, where do we rank? She kind of gave us some crazy hundreds of numbers out, couldn't find us. And then she's like, well, what would we do our first goal was, okay, we want to hit a top 50. That's all. And I was like, okay, and felt completely unachievable because we were looking at these creators, looking at like the crazy little EM we would get. And they were nice creators, but it was just the volume. We didn't have the volume. We weren't talking to people. We were in our own world making these amazing brand ads in the US that got no engagement. So we took it to heart. And one thing I heard, and I think it's a great way to really think about how you measure your KPI, is what gets measured. Whatever you measure, if you actually put it up on the roadmap, that's exactly how you're going to achieve it. So we started saying, okay, I want to get to that top 50, so that 50 number would be on my whiteboard in my office. So every morning I would come in, I'd see 50 right there. I have to get there. Yeah. The team's goal was 50, 50, 50. So we started thinking mailers, content creators, outreach. How do you work with it? We have a fantastic partner for our influencer strategy, which we started a little later in the game. But we started playing in that field, which helped us. And as we started testing and learning, I'd get so mad when we had these 50 organic mailers go out, and I would see only 20 of them post. I was like, how dare they? They got my product, and they're not posting about me. So it was kind of like one of those things we learned. And as we took the first few months, we started seeing some return. We got more investments to kind of think about how do we take it on. Then I had the CFO come in and said, okay, so you're spending all this money. Where's my ROI? It's not translating to sales. Do we have more customers coming in? I'm like, it takes time, right? But of course, CFO wants it immediate. So we saw that moment grow, and we started hitting those ranks. Slowly we got to top 50, and this past holiday, actually we were thinking top 10 by the end of our fiscal, which is March 24. We hit top 10 in October. So we were floored, right? And thank you. So, but it's been a lot of work, a lot of hard work of making sure you're getting your product out, you're engaging. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, every social network was definitely at the focus. And this is something I think is really important. It's not just about outside. We have a huge retail presence in the office. You can't think about it saying, okay, well, let our customers and everyone outside post for us. Yeah. Let them talk about it. You got to do the talking. I have to come in and mention why that amazing almond shower oil is as addictive for you as opposed to me. So I want to talk about it as much as you do. I live and breathe this product. I should also be doing the talking. So it was every employee, everyone talking about the brand, and we could see that customers started rolling in. And I think last November, we went viral, which was super exciting. And if you haven't seen it, please go look for the hand cream challenge. You'll see, different content creators trying to squeeze out that shea hand cream. You have to have heard about the shea hand cream, I hope. But it goes really high. And it was like a challenge that, our retail partners, Sephora Squad members started posting about it. So I think we saw that completely shift. And probably we were really, really excited to see the fact that the efforts that we put in, but it's not over yet, right?
No. So and I think that resulted in something like an uptick of 15% in new customers at the end of last year, which is incredible. And it's really fantastic.
And that's when the CFO came, okay, I see an ROI.
Yeah.
So, it's been very exciting. So we had our best holiday
So now you
season.
need to work out how to repeat that success more regularly through this year. I guess that's the team, no pressure. So that's fantastic. And Marc, I mean, obviously you are a fairly young brand in comparison, so you're at the start of this journey. Can you tell us some of the plans and what you've been doing to date?
Yeah, look, I've been a fan of EMV and Tribe since its inception. So I've known Connor for a while with Benefit Cosmetics and Fresh, and he was in our offices all the time, and it was really great to see how the platform has grown. So I actually really am a firm believer that EMV equals shareholder value. Yeah. So when I joined Facetheory, as you say, the brand has been around for about 6 or 7 years. We never really tracked it because the brand was grown as a performance marketing demand capture brand, not a demand generation brand. And so what that means is that when you type in to Google or whatever and you're looking for a salicylic acid, you're looking for a glycolic, you're looking for azelaic acid or something like that, in the UK, I guarantee you that Facetheory will be the very first product, very first brand that comes up because we gamed the system to capture that demand. So that was one method of how the brand has actually been growing. So we're now pivoting to be to looking at EMV as our bellwether, as our tracking. So like you, I don't have 50 on my vision board right now, but I do have what's that, Lauren? Oh, look at that. We got to 56. I don't even know. Thank you very much. Breaking news. In the UK, so we know Lauren, our wonderful head of influencer marketing, joined us not that long ago. And so we've been really taking a measured approach to EMV, going after the influencers and really looking at that repeat purchase and the loyalty of building those relationships. We had started off a couple of years ago before I joined of sending out a lot of mailers and building our lists. But we hadn't really been working on developing those relationships. So it was sending out products, hope they posted, but then there really wasn't any follow-up. And we know that building those relationships is just so key because it's people, and I want to make sure that people enjoy using our products and that they enjoy posting about us because at the end of the day, beauty is about, there's a sense of enjoyment about it. And people want to come to Facetheory because they probably have a concern about their skin, and we want to see what their journey is and how the products themselves have solved some of their skin issues. So EMV to me is imperative, and so my goal really is to continue to be best in class as we start to punch up and really punch above our weight class, really. We are a tiny little brand that has really big aspirations. And so we're going through the omni-channel approach, whereas we were solely direct to consumer. We are opening up our retail store, as I mentioned, in a couple of weeks here. We're going to be expanding into wholesale. We just launched in Sephora in Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia a couple of months ago. I did my little road show in Asia there. So we've definitely seen EMV tick up in those markets, and we're continuing to partner with agencies and some of those powerful influencers in the UK, and then trying to replicate that success in the US. So it's very much top of mind. I now have the board talking about it, which is they hadn't been talking about it before. Trying to convince my CFO what EMV means and to say that it is important for the brand has been, and it's taking me back about 10 years. I'm like, oh, Jesus, dude. But like, it's fun because I think he comes from the food services industry. And that is not a thing. Like, you don't really have EMV on a breakfast bar. Like, it's not really that big of a deal. But in beauty, it's so core to what we do because we want people to be talking about our products, and it's about continuing that storytelling. So it's a very important metric for me, and now I get measured on it. And Lauren, you're going to be measured on it. Ashlyn, you're going to be measured on it on a regular basis because it's so critical to the success of what we do. It's our biggest spend going forward. I've re-vectored all of our performance marketing spend to influencer marketing, specifically so that we can get that word of mouth out there.
Yeah. It's very interesting, this role of this CFO that we all have to do battle with all the time.
Constant battle.
Constant
friendly battle because our jobs really are, as a CMO, to make money for the brand. So we're not just a cost center, we are the sales team as well. So I always have to remind them, like, I'm going to spend money, but that you have to spend money to make money.
And take measured risks, I've gathered, by talking to both of you. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we've got 3 minutes left. So I'm going to, I guess, ask of both of you, what kind of advice would you give to the people in this room looking to become a CMO? It's an amazing role that I think, I've got a 20-year-old daughter. I think she probably fancies being a CMO one day. What kind of advice would you give, Vandan, in terms of a career?
Yeah, I think, over so many years, I think the two things I would say is you have to be able to take risk as a marketer. You have to try, because if you don't try, you would not know what would work. You almost need to try to say, okay, I want to be one step ahead of my competition, friendly competition outside, but that's the only way you can make a point of difference. The other thing I firmly believe is, when you think about it, I kind of alluded to it, we always say what gets measured gets done. You've got to really put that to the forefront. You've got to almost talk about it daily. You got to walk in. You got to get your team on board. You got to get the whole organization on board with your goal. It sounds crazy, but you almost have to say it 3 times. We talk about this, right? When you think of an ad that comes out, you first see that ad, you've seen it. Then you see that second time, it's like, oh, I think I saw that before. But the third time is when you sometimes pay attention. Yeah. And sometimes within the organization, if you have a goal, you need to almost say it 100 times before everybody comes on board with you. So if you can be sort of a nagger in a way, right? Yeah. But you kind of feel like, okay, everybody, let's do this because it's a win-win. Today, yes, like Marc said earlier, we're not a support center. Marketers are at that growth engine. You are creating that buzz, the social engine, the growth engine for the brand. You want customers walking in. You're doing a lot of that efforts that are then being seen by the commercial team on the sales side. So it's a win together. Yeah. So you got to make sure people believe in your strategy and believe in it yourself to make sure it succeeds.
Yeah, absolutely. Marc?
Stay curious and have passion. I think I have no business being in product development, but I love it. And I'm passionate about it, and that's how we've gotten some really good innovation, because I don't have the technical background to be able to talk really intelligently about it, but I know what I like, and I'm passionate, and I see what the customers like, and I can bring that to the innovation lab. And also have that level of integrity with yourself. Back when I was in the .com days in the late 90s, early 2000s, I hid, I didn't show up as my authentic self. I wouldn't be sitting here on stage like this, being like super honest, because I was always playing a part, thinking that, I had that imposter syndrome. I still have that to this day, and I think that's natural, but I think having that integrity and being able to show up as who you really are, that really comes through. And if people, you don't have to have everybody like you, but they have to respect you.
Yep.
And so for me, it's making sure that I show up every day with some integrity and have energy and passion. Then that's my biggest advice is, show up with those two things.
Fantastic. Amen to that. Thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you.
Thank you.